I'll go. I've got one that's not a terribly sexy demo, but is kind of cool. Um, I was inspired by some of the stuff that Chris was showing off earlier this week, and with where basically Chris has done the hard work of making APIs relatively straightforward to implement. So I implemented a query API, and to show it, I basically implemented like a very lightweight Python SDK to query against Omni's governed data. So explicitly, we are a semantic model, and we enable folks to, standardize metrics and the like too. The API is probably going to change, actually certainly going to change, and is definitely not going to be a V1, stable kind of throughout time. But it's at least a first pass where we take sort of a query. We take the API key, and we can run it. And then just to show you what it looks like here, here's some of the data that's coming back. Here's a visualization of the data coming back with a forecast applied to it too, so you can use your most familiar Python libraries. And I am
complex forecast you got there.
Yeah, I am definitely.
But just the last data point.
My Python notebooking skills are definitely a little bit dated. I needed Chris to help me, like, get me up and running, and it was trouble, but exciting.
What is Jamie? What does it take as the input? Like, is there a query ID, or like, do you have to create?
No, it's a query. It's a query. I looked actually at a handful of different APIs across a variety of tools too. Right now, and this is subject to change. And in fact, actually, Johnny's had good thoughts on it already. We basically have it's a GET request with our Omni query object too. So you can see, for example, it's even inconsistently named. So you got model ID in camel case, and you've got these underscore properties too. Join paths from topic names, probably not the right parameter for people querying.
I just think it's topic, right?
Yes, that's the topic. Yes. So, or like even the sorts, like this is maybe a good example too. We could probably make this simpler in an API format and probably have a translation, even if we want to keep the internal Omni things. I'm probably going to make that follow-up work, because it is a little bit, it could be potentially a little bit confusing to folks having like the inspector with like something that's inconsistent to what the API call would be. And like, we probably want to have something like grab the URL for the API to grab the query, to make it really easy for folks to be able to go insert these. I think the most common use cases will be Python notebook type, or Python or R or whatever, sort of more advanced analytics, or potentially using JavaScript to construct kind of custom experiences. And we'll want to have a seamless transition there too. So think of this as a very early version of it. We'll need to refine really what the interface looks like.
And does this run API?
No. Sorry.
Sorry. Yeah.
Does it run API an existing endpoint, or do you just create?
It's a new endpoint that effectively is reusing actually your run queries logic too, that I've got like refactored. Actually, I will do that at CC you on the PR. I would love your thoughts actually.
So it does the whole like handshake and
it does the whole
stuff.
It does the whole handshake and streams the data back too. Right now, I basically made a slightly constrained input, so like it doesn't take cache entries, it doesn't take it doesn't take an array of queries, it just takes a query, then does the lookup for the connection IDs and stuff too, and then it will actually look at the streamed results, and depending on what the type of the streamed result, like headers and footers, it ignores, it waits for a completed or an error state, and then for the completed state it'll basically wrap the arrow payload exclusively, not like the metadata coming back from the server. I think we'll want to have like a JSON option too, where we can actually probably take more of the payloads. But like in the simplest case, like where someone's using it inside a notebook, you probably just want the arrow payload coming into Python, and like you can go and manipulate it as a data frame. But I don't know. I think the hard part definitely was not like stitching it all together. I think the hard part's gonna be thinking about the interface design, like what we actually really want to, both from an input perspective take, and then from an output perspective, like what people expect.
Yeah, very cool. Definitely tag me in. I'd be curious to take a look.
Yeah, sounds good.
Are we going to let anyone touch this, or is this purely for our sort of play for now?
I think we could like, so I don't know. Once we feel good about like the V0 of it, I think we can release it and let people play with it, with the very heavy caveat that this is definitely going to have breaking changes going forward. So like,
Yeah,
you know,
I think there might be a handful of people that would be willing to play with it, even with breaking changes.
yeah,
Um,
and it'd
if
be great to get their
we
input.
want them to. So I think it's up to us, but I think plenty of people would sign up still with that caveat.
Yeah, I think
Yeah, I think a relationship where we want people to play with it, but we want them to be talking to us about how they're using it and giving us feedback on it is great. And yeah, the heavy caveat of like this is going to change, so be prepared for it to change.
Okay,
Yeah.
I can write it with that caveat, but I'll let people volunteer themselves.
yeah, absolutely.
Someone's brought up pivots, right? To you, thought about pivots. And,
Oh, I didn't even think about pivots. You're absolutely
yeah.
right. We're getting the arrow payload right now. You know what? Maybe I'm just gonna not allow you to specify a pivot to start.
I mean, there's going to be a lot of you might want to think about not arrow and instead JSON or CSV with our like post transform, just
You are
because
definitely
of
right.
there's all these weird little, they're going to get a bunch of
And the totals and stuff. I had not thought about that yet. You're totally right. That's more complicated. Yeah. I'll think about that. I'm gonna tag you into it too. Thank you.
Sure.